In this video, I want to talk about drones. Which one is right for you? Is it the new Mavic Mini 2? Yeah, I said 2. It's almost out, and it's got a really impressive upgrade. Or is it the Mavic Air 2, the drone that I've been flying for the last couple of months and hits a sweet spot for just about all of us drone flyers? Or the standard, the Mavic Pro 2, with that huge 1-inch sensor. We're going to talk about all of these and a couple other brands too. Let's go. This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Look, you need a website that's your personal space, a place for you to share your thoughts and photos, whether those photos were captured by a drone, a phone, or your camera phone. Squarespace provides gorgeous starting templates that are easy to customize, and if you get stuck, they've got 24/7 customer support. Start at squarespace.com/photorectv and you get a free, no credit card required trial. And when you're ready to purchase, use that link. It's going to save you 10% off your first purchase. In this video, I'm going to share my thoughts on the current drones on the market and 2 apps that all drone owners should be using. Now, before we get to the Mavic Mini 2 leaked specs, let's talk briefly about the original, the Mavic Mini. This is that tiny little under 250 gram, 249, that was released last year. You can watch my review of this drone in Alaska. It's linked above or below. It shoots 2.7K video, 12 megapixels JPEGs only. There has been a firmware update since release in my review. You now do have full manual control when shooting photos and videos. That's control over your shutter speed and your ISO. Your aperture in this drone is fixed. Real-world flight times are around 24 minutes, and because the drone-to-controller connection uses Wi-Fi, the distance over which you can control the drone and get a clear feed really depends greatly on interference and line of sight. In Alaska, I could easily fly a mile away and still had a good signal and clean video. Here in Seattle, I'm much more limited. I start seeing issues at just a quarter of that distance. When I reviewed this original Mavic Mini, I was impressed with its capabilities and thought the ease of flying plus the price just make this a great starter drone. Yes, there are cheaper drones out there, but they don't hold their position very well. This is incredibly easy to fly, like all of the DJI drones. Now, some of you could argue that you could buy one of those cheaper drones that requires real skill to fly. That better prepares you for moving up to one of these drones. I think it all depends on what you want. You want an easy-to-fly, stable photo and video platform where you pretty much have to do something stupid to crash the drone. Or do you want a more racing drone that's definitely going to crash multiple times, but certainly gives you a bit of rush when you're flying it and a bit of rush after you crash and you walk up wondering how many pieces it's going to be in? I honestly think there's arguments for both. Depends on what you want. But now, at the time of this recording, we are just days away from the Mini 2 announcement. That's going to be its updated name. All videos and leaks point to a very similar looking drone with actually 3 significant changes. 1, it's going to shoot 4K now, as opposed to that 2.7. 2, it's going to use the new remote that's also used by the Mavic Air. And here's the big one. The drone-to-controller connection is going to use that much more reliable OcuSync 2.0. That provides clear video, feed, and control for miles, like up to 6 miles. Which is probably about 5.5 miles further than you should be flying this drone away from you. The weight is staying under 250 grams, which means you don't have to register it in the USA. That's all that means though. And otherwise, you are supposed to still follow all drone rules. That includes using it for business. You need to be FAA certified. Now, it's not going to have active track. That's one of the things that helps differentiate it from the Mavic Air 2. It does look like the price is going to be bumped up about $100. It's currently selling for $399, the original, and $499 for the drone plus the multi-controller, which gives you 3 batteries total and a couple of other extra goodies. So we're talking about more like $499 and $599. I think the new Mavic Mini will sell really well this holiday season. I mean, my opinion when I reviewed the original Mavic, because it's a very competent drone. And now the fact that they've put 4K in here, maybe we should say unlocked 4K from that sensor system, but the OcuSync is huge. That's fantastic. That's going to make a big difference. It's going to be a great seller. My only complaint is that they've adopted this new controller style, and it's bulky. When you're selling a drone that is this small and this lightweight, but you need to carry around this block of gray cheddar, well, that's a little disappointing. Overall, though, represents a good value drone. But for a couple of $100 more, you've got the drone that I've been flying pretty much non-stop for the last 4 months, the Mavic Air 2. Now, before we get to my opinion on the Mavic Air 2, I do want to take a moment to talk about Squarespace. I run Photorec.tv on Squarespace, and I love just how easy it is to create new content, to customize the look and feel of the site, and all of the easy add-ons that are offered, like scheduling tools for booking clients, or the e-store for selling prints or any product you want, or their marketing system that makes it super easy to send newsletters. It truly is an awesome all-in-one platform that anyone can use to create gorgeous-looking websites. Give it a try. As I said, you get a totally free, no credit card required 2-week trial, and start at squarespace.com/photorectv, and you can save 10% off your first purchase. Now, when the Mavic Air 2 was announced, I was impressed with the feature set. You've got that OcuSync 2.0, which allows for long-range control and clean video, 4K at 60 frames per second. You can shoot photos in RAW, of course, JPEG, and up to 48 megapixel photos. That plus the upgraded active track, that's pretty impressive, the better obstacle avoidance that has further improved since launch, and it's all packed into a drone that's about half the weight and size of the Mavic 2 Pro. I mean, honestly, since the Air arrived, the Pro has just been kind of sadly gathering dust on my shelf. There hasn't been a single flight with the Air 2 where I wished I'd had my bigger Mavic Pro. And when I think back to all of the trips I've done with the Mavic, there isn't a single trip where I would have needed the Mavic over the Air. Now, psychologically, I might have felt a little better flying in the Arctic or Antarctic with a drone that has a slightly higher top speed. The Pro does offer 72 kilometers per hour. The Air 2 is 68 kilometers per hour. And the larger body feels a little more substantial and serious, but in real-world use, that's a tiny, insignificant difference. Now, I'm not saying that the Mavic Air 2 is better than the Pro 2 in all categories. When we look at sensor size and bit rate, both are larger in the Mavic 2 Pro. You are going to get better dynamic range and increased detail in video, better low light images as well. But honestly, the difference is fairly minor in the side-by-sides that I've looked at. And for my work, creating kind of travel vlogs and B-roll supporting video on this channel, what I can capture with the Air 2 is plenty good enough. You do have better obstacle avoidance. Now, I said it's better, but here's what you got here. You got 360 in the Pro, so it is watching in all directions, so it's a little bit harder to crash. The Mavic Air only has front, rear, and bottom. It doesn't have top, so it's smarter about how it flies, but you could still run it into something a little bit easier than you could in the Mavic Pro. Two other drawbacks for the Air. One is, I talked about it already, the redesigned remote. It's chunky and it doesn't have a screen when you compare it against the Pro model. But the Air 2 does support the Smart controller. I just kind of want to mention this. Obviously, this really impacts the kind of portability and travel friendliness of these drones, but this is nice. You can watch my review of this right down below. And because it supports the Mavic Air 2, I suspect it's going to support the Mini as well. One other drawback to the Mavic Air, and this is true of the Pro, both of these, but there's no USB charging. I mean, it is getting to be such a travel-friendly drone, and the fact that I have to carry around this kind of power brick and cable system, whereas with this, I can just bring a little USB charger. That would make it even more travel-friendly. And now this brings us to talking about the Mavic 2 Pro for just a moment. I mean, if you are looking for the best quality photos and video in a still somewhat travel-friendly size, this is going to provide it. But right now, you're giving up that upgraded active tracking ability. And honestly, I think for most people that I've talked to and most people watching this video, you will find that, like me, what the Mavic Air 2 provides, its capabilities and its qualities, are going to be just good enough for you. Some of you say, well, what about the Mavic 3? We've heard rumors that that's around the corner, maybe pushed back a little bit because of the pandemic. It sounds like sometime next year. And the rumor is that we're going to have two versions, a standard and a Pro. The Pro possibly will offer interchangeable lenses, which is much more like their high-end Inspire drones. That's going to provide some awesome results. No way will be less than $2,500 in my mind. And then, of course, adding interchangeable lenses can quickly bring that price up even higher. The standard version, I suspect, is going to be very similar, except we'll probably get a bump up to 4K at 60 frames per second. I say probably, definitely will. I think it's going to keep the same sensor size. It's going to get that upgraded active tracking and some improved flight times, and will likely be around $2,000. And look, I don't mean to make this just about DJI drones. If DJI's monopoly leaves a bad taste in your mouth, and you don't want to deal with the geofencing that you find in all of these drones, you could consider the Autels. When I reviewed the original, I found it to be a really compelling drone with some nice features over the DJI's. And then there's the Skydio 2. If you want the best drone for autonomous action tracking, absolutely that's the drone you should consider. For most of you though, I think it comes right back to the Mavic Air 2. It hits that sweet spot. Easy to fly, great quality, very good feature set. That makes it the drone most of you are looking for. I'd love to know which drone you have or would like to have. You can leave those thoughts in the comments below. And as I mentioned at the beginning, the two apps all drone owners should be using. One, the Before You Fly app. It's an easy way to look at the drone rules and regulations in an area that you might be planning to fly. It can save you time and frustration when you pull up to a gorgeous spot only to realize you're not allowed to fly there. The other app/service is AirData UAV. You run an app on your phone that collects all of your flight info, and it displays that in-app or online. It's fun to track your stats, display your badges. It's also really helpful to track battery usage and/or diagnose signal issues you might be having. It's really easy to dig through all of the details they offer online. They've got a free version, but if you fly more often or with multiple drones, consider upgrading and using the code PHOTOREC20 to save 20% off your subscription. If you appreciated this video, give it a quick thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe along with hitting that little bell to be notified of future videos. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.